Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. The afternoon sun stretched its lazy arms across the wooden floor, touching the corners of a house that smelled of rice and lemongrass. Somewhere between the clinking of bowls and the hum of cicadas, Lytuna looked up, his eyes tracing the soft dance of light filtering through the pomelo leaves. It was supposed to be a simple lunch, yet beneath that simplicity something trembled, like a note held too long in the air. His mother had come, carrying a wicker basket wrapped in banana leaves, her steps careful, her eyes unreadable. Lytuna, standing in the kitchen, wiped her hands on her apron, her breath caught between hesitation and hope. The air was thick, not with tension, but with memory. Years of unspoken words hovered like dust in the sunlight. Somewhere behind the curtain, Henry, the small boy with the calmest breathing in the world, slept, unaware that peace was returning, bowl by bowl, gesture by gesture. A breeze stirred the bamboo blinds. The scent of dried fish and jasmine tea wove together like threads of forgiveness. In that tiny house, time slowed, not to capture a grand reunion, but a tender attempt to rebuild what had quietly fallen apart. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The truth is just beginning to unfold. The kettle whistled softly, a small, trembling sound that filled the silence between them. Alex added wood to the fire, his hand steady, though his heartbeat wasn't. He didn't know what felt heavier, the summer heat or the unspoken past resting on that bamboo table. His mother placed the basket down. The banana leaves rustled like Papa hiding old letters. Inside were the dishes she used to cook when he was young: pickled eggplant, dried shrimp, fish stew. Each carried a weight of memory, the smell of home, the sound of forgiveness, and the fear of what might not be forgiven. "Eat, daughter," she said quietly, her voice soft as worn fabric. Lytuna hesitated, then bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Mom." The word Mom floated between them, fragile as steam rising from the soup. Outside, cicadas sang their endless song. Inside, the knife struck the chopping board with slow, rhythmic certainty, the heartbeat of the house. Alex sat beside the fire, his eyes wandering between the two women. Their movements, though ordinary, held the weight of something sacred. One woman reaching out, another learning how to receive. A memory surfaced, the day Alex left home years ago, angry, stubborn, his mother's voice calling after him. "Don't forget to eat well." Now, the same voice said the same thing, but softer, as if time itself had folded the edges of pain into tenderness. The pot bubbled. Steam rose. The air shimmered. Between the sound of boiling soup and the scraping of spoons, Alex realized this wasn't just cooking. It was reconstruction. Every cut, every stir was mending something invisible. A small sound broke the trance. Henry shifting in his sleep. The boy's small hand reached out into the light, fingers curling as if catching the warmth floating through the room. Alex exhaled slowly. Maybe this is what forgiveness sounds like, he thought. A kitchen breathing again. Outside, sunlight slid down the roof tiles. Inside, his mother's face softened. Lytuna poured tea, her eyes shimmering with something unspoken, a gratitude too shy to take shape. It wasn't perfect yet. The distance still existed, but for the first time, they were close enough to listen. The meal was ready. The table shone beneath the golden noon light, the dishes shimmering like quiet confessions. Fish stew glistened with amber sauce, the vegetables steamed softly, and the rice, simple, fragrant, forgiving, waited at the center, as if it had been holding its breath for this very moment. Alex's mother lifted a piece of fish and placed it gently into Tuna's bowl. Her hand trembled slightly, the way one might tremble when mending a torn letter. "Eat, daughter," she said again. Tuna looked down, unable to speak. Her eyes glistened, reflecting the flame beneath the stove, that small, stubborn fire that had never truly gone out. She had prepared countless meals before, but this bite of fish carried more weight than all the feasts in the world. It was acceptance. Alex sat opposite them, watching in silence. His throat tightened. He had dreamt of this, of the moment when two women could share a table, when the heaviness that haunted him for years could finally dissolve into the rhythm of clinking bowls. The sound was not noise, it was understanding. Then, in the stillness between heartbeats, the past came flooding back. He remembered his mother's cold eyes the day he left home, her silence when he told her about Tuna, the disappointment that sliced through every letter he wrote but never sent. And yet, here they were, beneath the same roof, sharing warmth from the same stove. Outside, a butterfly landed on the window frame, its wings trembling like a fragile truth. Henry's laughter drifted in from the next room, small, pure, the sound of peace trying to be born again. Alex's mother looked at him. "You've grown," she whispered. Her words cracked slightly, but her smile didn't. "I was afraid that you'd forgotten what home feels like." Alex lowered his head. "I didn't forget, Mom. I just didn't know how to come back." The silence that followed was deep, but not empty. It held something alive, forgiveness, hesitance, love rediscovered. Tuna's hand brushed his, almost unintentionally. It was warm, grounding him, pulling him into the present where the air no longer stung. Then came the smallest, purest sound. Henry's sleepy voice calling softly from the doorway. "Mom." It was like a bell, calling them all back to where they belonged. At that moment, everything changed. The afternoon sun slipped lower, painting the porch in shades of honey and bronze. They spread a mat outside, a simple gesture, yet it felt like beginning anew. The tea, brewed from pomelo leaves, released a faint sweetness, the kind that lingered long after each sip, the kind that asked nothing but to be noticed. Henry stirred from his nap and climbed onto his grandmother's lap. His tiny fingers found 2 grains of rice clinging to her sleeve. She laughed softly, a fragile, musical sound that carried all the forgiveness she had never said aloud. Tuna sat beside her, folding her hands quietly on her knees. Her eyes followed the steam rising from the teapot, curling into invisible shapes of gratitude. Alex leaned back, watching the 2 women, the past and the present, existing side by side, finally without resistance. The world seemed smaller, kinder. He reached out to adjust the fan's rhythm, and the slow hum filled the space like a heartbeat shared among them all. "Mom," he began softly, "I used to think love meant choosing one side." His mother turned toward him, her eyes tender. "But maybe," he continued, "love is when both sides learn to sit at the same table." The old woman smiled, and for the first time, she didn't look away. "You've learned," she said. That's enough." A gentle silence followed, not the kind that hides words, but the kind that holds them. The air shifted, the garden glowed. Even the breeze seemed to slow down, careful not to break the stillness. Lytuna reached for Henry, resting the boy's head on her shoulder. "It's strange," she murmured, "how peace feels heavier than pain. Maybe because we're not used to carrying it." Alex smiled. "Then let's practice." The mother looked at them both. One woman who had held her son's childhood, another who held his future, and nodded quietly, sealing her blessing without ceremony. When the sun touched the roof's edge, she rose and smoothed her shirt, her hand trembling like a leaf in late summer. "I'll come again," she said, "before the table grows cold." As her footsteps faded down the dusty road, the light bent through the leaves, scattering across the bamboo floor in golden fragments. Lytuna turned to Alex, her voice barely above a whisper. "She left something behind." He frowned. "What?" She smiled faintly. "Warmth." The boy laughed suddenly, his small voice filling the evening like a bird returning home. Alex drew them both closer, feeling the soft rise and fall of their breathing. 3 rhythms in quiet harmony. The breeze entered the room, playing with the curtains. Somewhere beyond the window, the world continued its noise. But here, in this fragile stillness, they had found something rarer. A love that no longer needed to prove itself. Outside, crickets began to sing. The tea cooled, leaving faint honey-colored rings on the tray, marks of an afternoon that would never quite fade. And in that golden half-light, they finally understood. Some reconciliations don't arrive with grand speeches or tears, only with shared silence, warm food, and the courage to stay. The evening arrived quietly, draped in the color of apricot kernels. Outside, the air smelled faintly of dust and tea. Inside, the lamp on the bamboo table flickered, not with uncertainty, but with gentleness, as if remembering the warmth it had witnessed hours ago. Alex and Lytuna sat where his mother had sat. The chair still carried her quiet warmth. Between them, Henry slept soundly, one hand resting on his mother's, the other on Alex's wrist, a bridge between hearts that no longer feared each other. No one spoke. The silence was not emptiness, it was completion. The table, cleared of dishes, still held traces of belonging. The shape of teacups, the faint aroma of fish stew, the echo of laughter. Every small thing, a folded mat, a cup left half full, seemed to breathe softly, saying, "You've done enough for today." Alex's gaze drifted toward the window, where a single moth beat its wings against the glass. The soft sound reminded him of his mother's words earlier. "Don't let the table grow cold." He smiled, realizing she hadn't meant just the food. She had meant this, the togetherness, the quiet ritual of love that needed no language. He turned to Lytuna. "I was afraid before," he whispered, his voice trembling with the honesty of someone finally unburdened. "Not of her, but of the space between us." Lytuna met his gaze. "That space was never empty," she said. "It was waiting for light." Outside, the garden swayed in the wind, leaves rustling like slow applause for an ending that felt more like a beginning. The world hadn't changed, but something within them had. A steady pulse of calm, a readiness to keep building the ordinary days together. The lamp's glow spread over the table, then the floor, and finally their hands. Alex reached out, covering hers, grounding the moment. It wasn't dramatic nor perfect, just right. The night deepened. Crickets took over the song of cicadas. Henry shifted in his sleep, murmuring something soft. A dream too simple to remember but too gentle to lose. And in that room, with the hum of the fan, the whisper of tea cooling, and 3 steady breaths, the story found its peace. Maybe love doesn't end. It just changes shape, from a wound to warmth, from silence to understanding, from distance to the shared rhythm of one slow afternoon. As dawn's first light brushed the window, Lytuna rose quietly, leaving a small bowl of toasted rice between 2 cups of tea. A simple offering, a memory of a day that chose tenderness and worked hard to keep it. After all storms, they found peace.
Một buổi trưa ấm áp, Alex trở về nhà tìm Lytuna và bí Henry để dùng bữa tối với mẹ giữa căn nhà bếp nhỏ. Mùi cơm, tiếng ve sầu, ánh nắng xuyên qua bưởi và lại những ký ức, nhưng cũng mở ra cơ hội tha thứ. Cử chỉ, miếng cá được gắp, tách trà được rót đều là một nhịp giữa quá khứ và hiện tại. Khi nghĩ ra và hơi ấm còn đang nằm lại trên bàn tre, một lời dặn đừng để bạn an ngủi. Trong đêm yên, Alex và Lytuna ngồi lặng, nhận ra rằng tình yêu thật sự không cần lời, mà chỉ cần biết đến nhau hơi ấm và những ngày bình dị.